Joining me now to talk about this, D.C.'s pot problem, is Ethan Nadelmann, the founder and executive director of the Drug Policy Alliance, and Kevin Sabet, the president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana and author of Reefer Sanity, 7 Great Myths about Marijuana. All right, you guys, you're fighting in the break. We were discussing.
Yeah, just chit-chat.
Yeah. Do you think, Ethan, that Congress has the ability to put the kibosh on D.C.'s
Well,
pot
legally
use?
they could, but when you have a 70% vote of the Washington, D.C. electorate, and mind you, what D.C. did so far, it's not setting up a system to tax and regulate marijuana the way that Colorado and Washington did 2 years ago, or Oregon and Alaska did last week. So there's not going to be a hell of a lot for Congress to respond to right now. I don't think they're going to want to step on D.C. just over this.
So I think the worry is that this is just setting the stage for commercial retail sales. So, I mean, if this was just about the possession, that would be one thing. But a lot of D.C. council members and others have made it clear their next step is to start have marijuana stores.
Is there a sizable opposition there?
Actually, there's a pretty interesting, good opposition from the Black church movement. In fact, it's interesting. When I go down there and speak at this in Southeast D.C., which is much more impoverished, obviously, than Northwest, the message is much more received much better than when I'm in Northwest D.C. talking to kids at Georgetown who really just want to smoke a joint.
I'll tell you, we actually have some recent exit research on this. It looks like the Southeast neighborhoods voted just about as much as the whiter neighborhoods as well. It was 65 to 70%. And the interesting thing is, there actually appears to be higher support in D.C. for a system of legally licensing and taxing and regulating it than there was for the decriminalization measure.
The message we've heard is that liquor stores have devastated the African American community. Especially
in a more serious drug.
Hold on. So the last thing they want is another store, another basically intoxicant. That's going to be disproportionately located in minority neighborhoods.
Well, what they know, Kevin, what they already know, though, is that marijuana is already being sold in the neighborhoods. Yeah. It's already generating criminal revenue, and it's getting their kids arrested.
When it's massively promoted, as alcohol is, when you go after the most vulnerable. There are 8 times as many liquor stores in poor neighborhoods in Baltimore than they are in upper-class white neighborhoods.
You've got a good cause to take on. I think you should take on the cause of liquor stores.
Well, let's do it
together.
DC, okay? But the last thing I want to do is add to that problem.
The fact is, the majority of residents in Washington, D.C., both black and white, want to end marijuana prohibition. Look, they don't want young people being arrested, black or white. They know it's disproportionately.
I don't want people to be arrested.
They know it's disproportionately black people getting busted there as well.
Let's not bust them. Then. Will you stop at decriminalization? Then would you stop at actually not having the stores in D.C. if they proceeded with what they voted on?
It's nice watching you become a footnote in history.
Can you guys bring me some popcorn? I can just sit here and watch this movie all night.
The issue is this is about money. This is about money, Don. If this was only about getting people out of jail, we would stop at decriminalization. This is about getting a small number of people rich, basically creating another tobacco industry of our time.
I see, Kevin. Unlike the situation now where you've had gangsters making millions of dollars.
Not off marijuana.
Your preference, you say decriminalize so you can keep the gangsters making the money instead of taxing and regulating
not
it.
Off marijuana.
But that's
the gangsters are still there in Colorado. They're thriving. They're there now under legalization.
There's going to be money in this one way or another.
Sure, I understand that.
Your preference is for the criminals to earn it. No. I say tax and regulate it, license it. That's the way to do it. And fortunately, a majority of Americans are now agreeing with that approach.
We'll see. The Gallup poll just had a massive reduction in support, as you know, as you've noted, Don. 51 support versus 58.
I don't think that's a
Can we talk about? Let's talk about the studies and then talk about the science. And we've had our Dr. Drew on. Dr. Sanjay Gupta has done research on this as well. And it shows, for younger people, when your brain is developing, that marijuana, may have some deleterious effects. And the deleterious effect may not be that great for you. But as you're an older person, the studies show that alcohol pretty much is worse for you than marijuana. And so as I asked Dr. Drew, why isn't pot legal in most places and marijuana is? Because you talk about liquor stores a lot.
But alcohol has a long history of widespread accepted use in our culture, dating back to before the Old Testament. The issue is it's been culturally accepted. That's why it's legal.
Hang on. Let me get this in. Let me say this. There's been an accepted use about a lot of things in our culture and society that didn't make it right.
I'm not talking about. I'm not defending alcohol legalization. I'm saying the reason people are saying, well, why is one drug that might be less harmful illegal than another drug? I don't know. I don't know what you would say about this, but I think it's really a cultural reason. The issue is, why would we add to our problems with another legal industry?
So then why would we not make pot legal and then make alcohol not legal?
Well, because you can't make alcohol not legal. Over 60% of Americans use alcohol. 7% of Americans smoke pot. We're about to legalize a substance used by 7% of Americans.
That doesn't sound like a good argument.
I don't see why that should stop you from taking on that cause, Kevin.
All right, we'll be right back. Much more of this when we come back. So has America gone to pot, or should we think twice about legalization? Back with me now, Ethan Nadelmann and Kevin Sabet. So let's see, Kevin, now have 4 states plus D.C. that have voted to legalize recreational marijuana. Is it, and other states have it on the ballot, more states will have it on the ballot, is it inevitable?
I don't think it's inevitable. I actually think, the reason why we're seeing the eroding support nationally, although we saw Oregon and Alaska, which were, go for this.
Eroding support after 56% in Oregon?
51% versus the Gallup poll saying 58% last year, as we all
talked about. The Gallup poll,
about.
as you know, is an outlier last year.
Let me finish, Ethan.
Hold on.
You'll have your say.
Rather
than speaking over that, is that legalization, the Gallup just showed a 7% decline.
Look at that number right there, 51-47.
That's right, and it was 58% last year. And the reason you're seeing this reduced support is that actually legalization in theory sounds a lot better than in practice. In practice, it's about the gummy bears, the candies, the chocolates, these big manufacturers, as you just showed on your segment with this kind of big marijuana business. It's not about hippies smoking a joint now and then. I really could care less if a 50-year-old guy wants to smoke marijuana in the privacy of his own home. That's very different than what's going on in Colorado.
You just want him to buy it illegally from criminals.
No, I don't care if he's grows it himself.
That's what you want.
What I don't want, though, is so you're happy with the gummy bears and the chocolates that are targeted towards kids in Colorado?
The Oregon voters.
Answer his question, though. No. What do you think of the edibles, like gummy bears and chocolates and all that?
They need to be better regulated. And what you see happening in Colorado and Washington right now are regulations to better control that.
But you're not having it better regulated because of the industry.
It's also a relatively new phenomenon. No, the industry actually has a pretty strong interest in regulating this stuff.
They have said no to every
the whole issue of the gummies and the edibles is going to become less and less of an issue. The vast majority of people who take marijuana in an edible form don't have a problem. The other thing is, unlike alcohol or opiates, you don't die of an overdose. It's not a good thing to overdose on an edible, but it's not dangerous.
Can't you die from marijuana, from a car crash, from falling off a building?
Yeah, but quite frankly, if you're on an edible, you're not driving. If you have too much edible, you're lying down. That's what you're doing.
I don't think that's what's happening.
Quite frankly, the interesting thing also is in Oregon and Alaska.
People drive.
In Oregon and Alaska, you saw the opposition try to make something of this edibles argument, and the Oregonians looked at it and said, you know something, let's stop kidding around. Let's stop leaving underground. Why have illegal edibles as opposed to legal edibles? Why not tax and control and regulate
gummy bears before Colorado legalized, and the fact that actually Colorado's had a tripling, it's not a joke, in fatal car crashes with people high on marijuana.
And gummy bears are they're a contemporary version of the old marijuana brownies. And most of us went to college. Remember having a little too much of an edible back then.
Why not stop at letting an adult smoke marijuana in the privacy of his home, or even grow his own, versus starting this commercial market? It's because there's a lot of money to be made in this, Don. This is about money. This is about creating another tobacco industry for a small number of people.
You sound like this is more of a libertarian approach that you're talking about. Like, stay out of my home. What I do in the privacy of my own home. Just don't have gummy bears. I eat a lot of gummy bears, and I'm, a man of a certain age.
But when the serving size is, do you eat one leg of a gummy bear, or do you have a whole bag? They say you should eat one arm.
You would no doubt like that these things would be labeled properly, that you would know the dose and the potency.
So what do we do?
Under a prohibition model, that's not going to happen.
There isn't gummy bears under a prohibition model.
Aren't we making this tough, though? Because it's not legalized everywhere, right? And are we making it tough for employers and places that regulate?
The workplace issue is enormous. The issue about testing positive in the workplace, the safety issues, people saying, wait a minute, I smoked on Friday or night, now it's Monday.
The interesting thing, though, these are the arguments that used to carry some weight. These are used to carry some weight. What you see is the vast majority of Americans who are now voting to legalize marijuana don't use marijuana.
They're voting to legalize.
And you know what else?
True.
You know what else? And the people who want to vote to legalize marijuana right now, right? They no more want their kids using marijuana than do the people who are opposed to it. The bottom line is we see a massive shift happening in American public opinion over the last 10 to 15 years. People are saying we want the cops focusing on real crime, not busting young people for marijuana. They're saying we want the government taxing and regulating it and using the tax revenue for things like education instead of the gangsters getting the money. That's the way. That's why 2 years from now, watch for California and other states to begin to legally regulate
these
stuff
states
as well.
are trying to legalize this in the last couple of years because money. $9 million was pumped in. Into Alaska, Oregon, and California. $9 million. $9 million. It did work for you. $9 million versus $400,000 in messaging. I think as we live with the consequences of legalization, Don, there will be a backlash that proponents are underestimating right now.
I'll agree with Kevin on one thing here. It is not inevitable. It is not inevitable. If people who think it's important for marijuana prohibition to end, want it to happen, they can't think it's just going to happen by itself. There needs to continue to be responsible advocacy. I wish I was sitting here with somebody, excuse me, I wish I was sitting here with somebody from a public health field. Right now, my organization, Drug Policy Alliance, is bringing together people who are interested in marijuana legalization, people from the medical field, the public health field, all of whom see an end to marijuana prohibition is a good thing, even a necessary thing, but want to do it in a responsible way.
Actually, Ethan, Sam has the major public health researchers in the country, the AMA, the American Society of Addiction Medicine, they're all against your position.
Let me ask you this.
Who want to do it in a responsible
Ethan,
way.
I remember speaking to you a while ago, and you said that you didn't even smoke marijuana anymore.
No, that was somebody else, Don. I have been a responsible and occasional consumer of marijuana since I was 18. Didn't stop me from getting a law degree and a PhD.
I thought you said you didn't smoke for a while.
No. Listen, I've never been a daily consumer. I don't think people should consume it daily unless they have a medical need. But I think the notion of making it illegal and forcing people to go to the,
Then what's this bong story you're telling me about?
Oh, bongs. I actually think what's happening is that the emergence of vaporizers, so fewer and fewer people are smoking marijuana out of bongs and joints.
Daily use.
I thought you said you hadn't smoked a bong in a while.
Daily use.
No, what I was saying is I think bongs are going out of fashion and vaporizers are coming in.
Oh my gosh.
Daily use among high school seniors has tripled.
Thank you guys.
Stop making stuff up.
Thank you guys. We will be right. We'll let them talk.
Kevin,
we'll be right back.
Making stuff up.
Hold on.